Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel or welcome to my channel. If you are new here, hi, hello, my name is Loey. Before we get into today's video, which I know you guys are excited for, just judging by the title, I would like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Dollar Shave Club. Are you really even a YouTuber if you don't get a Dollar Shave Club sponsorship? Before you look at that box and think to yourself that this is a product for men, keep in mind I shave more of my body than I think most men do. Every morning, for the most part in the summer, I take a second to go ahead and shave my legs just because I feel like for me, I like the option to wear shorts or a skirt or a dress or something like that and not feel like, oh crap, I didn't shave my legs, I can't do it. That's not to say that you can't wear those things if you don't shave, it's just a personal preference. But we all have our daily grooming routines, from brushing our teeth to shaving our legs to just about everything else. But we all do have our daily grooming routines, and for everything from shaving to brushing your teeth to washing your hair and body, Dollar Shave Club has you covered. That's right. They sell way more than just razors. Their products are super high quality and also affordable. You get them sent straight to your house. You don't even have to leave, which is probably one of my favorite things about it. But also, the more you buy, the more you save. So if you are someone who goes through a ton of like shower gel or a ton of razor heads, you know that when you stock up, you get even more of a discount. And right now they have a deal where you can get the Ultimate Shave Starter Set for a whopping $5. The Ultimate Shave Starter Set comes with their executive razor, as well as 3 1-ounce bottles of their best-selling shaving products. And these are amazing to test the products out. It's like enough so that you can actually use it and get a feel for it, but it's also small enough if you want to travel with them. So you start off with their prep scrub to exfoliate the skin, as well as get it ready for the closest shave possible. Then you go ahead and you use the shave butter, apply a layer of that wherever it is you're gonna shave, use your executive razor, and then you follow up with the post-shave dew to relieve on contact as well as hydrate the skin. So you can join Dollar Shave Club right now for $5 for this exclusive deal by going to the link down below, as well as written out right here. After your first month, you'll be sent like full-size, regular-size products once a month for regular price. I highly suggest you all check it out. Thank you so much to Dollar Shave Club for sponsoring today's video. And let's get right into this story that I have been aware of for a very long time. As much as I feel like I could talk about a creepypasta and a lot of you would know what I'm talking about, I also feel like in some regards they've kind of become like ancient internet history. Nowadays, we are completely spoiled with alternate reality games and other stories that are told through very current forms of media, and they have crazy high production value and amazing writers. But back in the day, these stories would just circulate the internet with nobody really knowing what was true and what was false. This particular story, we're gonna call it Squidward's Tape to avoid the demonetization gods, but it does go under another title that is not very hard to find. But Squidward's Tape is a lost episode creepypasta, and it was kind of one of the OGs in this style. Back in the day, there was something inherently so bizarre about the idea that our favorite TV shows or, just cartoons, anything that was geared towards children especially, could have a dark secret laying beneath it. It just creeped everybody out, and these stories would just circulate the entire internet. So Squidward's Tape was one of those, and I remember reading it way back in the day and honestly kind of thinking it was true, thinking it was a real thing and being completely unnerved by it. This is not a real story. It is just a creepypasta, but it doesn't make it any less bizarre and unsettling. So the author of this story claims that they were once a Nickelodeon intern way back in 2005. It wasn't a paid gig, but our author was pursuing their animation degree and they got to see early episodes of Nickelodeon shows, so they weren't too bothered. Pretty excited to have the gig overall. Jumping straight into it, our author, and I will continue to call them our author because they never really give us their name or their gender or anything, kind of adding to the like somebody's trying to hide their identity while telling this story like mystery of it all. But our author explains that at this point, the Spongebob Squarepants movie had just come out, and the Spongebob team was definitely feeling zapped and exhausted, both creatively and physically. So things were really behind schedule in the Spongebob Squarepants department. But finally, the season 4 premiere was like ready for viewing. And the way that the author explained this is just that they'll go through their initial cuts and kind of get to their first wrapped up format ready for viewing. And then a bunch of editors and interns will sit in a room, take notes, and then it will go into final cuts. So everyone is sitting there ready for the season 4 premiere of SpongeBob, and as the usual like jingle plays and usual intro scenes go off, everything seems totally normal until the title card comes on the screen, and it is titled Squidward's Tape. And everyone is a little bit weirded out by this. They kind of look at each other and chuckle, and they think it's a joke more than anything, but a dark joke nonetheless. The episode began like normal background music, normal everything, just Squidward practicing his clarinet in his house when SpongeBob comes by to annoy him, and Squidward tells him, knock it off, I've got a big concert tonight, leave me alone. SpongeBob is like, cool, he leaves. Squidward continues to practice. It's totally normal. It's like him fumbling on every other note. If you guys are big SpongeBob SquarePants fans, you can probably visualize this in your head. So as he's practicing for the concert, the scene cuts out from his home to the actual like concert hall. But as he begins to play, it occurs to the author that something is just a little bit strange about the reaction of this crowd. They start booing, and not in like the normal like cartoony kind of like jokey kiddish way. The boos sound angry, and there's something sort of malicious and not very nice about it. It didn't seem like a normal SpongeBob SquarePants like episode, basically. The camera panned, and SpongeBob is also sitting in the audience booing. And as everyone in the room is taking this moment in, they realize that there's something wrong with the eyes of all of the characters on screen. They're like hyper realistic, almost like human eyes. Before anyone can like comment on this, the scene really quickly changes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed in his room alone that night. The author notes here that there was literally no sound, not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them working perfectly. So finally, the silence is broken by Squidward starting to cry on his bed. And again, everyone in the room is like, this is a weird joke, From what the author kind of described, sometimes they would play little jokes on each other and like pranks and stuff as they were viewing these episodes. There would be scenes almost like placeholders in these episodes meant to make the people viewing them laugh. But this was intense, and they were like several minutes in at this point. And so Squidward cried and cried and cried, and it got louder and louder until suddenly the sound of someone laughing broke through the sobs, and that person wasn't featured on screen. Everyone in the room just kind of looked at each other, not knowing whether to stop the tape or ask to see whoever made it. Everyone was just bewildered at this point and not really understanding what this was building up to. And as that crying and the laughing grew louder and louder for minutes on end, suddenly something twitched and almost just like blipped in the video frame. Almost like somebody had taken one still frame of the entire show and replace it with something else. And so without speaking, one of the lead editors goes over and begins to rewind it frame by frame until he sees exactly what had been replaced. What was on that screen is something I would have to heavily censor the description of to make it YouTube safe. But to give you a snapshot of it, it was a young boy who was no longer alive, and the scene was just gruesome. There were no evidence tags or markers in the scene as though it was a crime scene, and there was no shadow of the person taking the photo, suggesting that it was possible that whoever was taking the photo was responsible for the murder. And nobody knew how to react at this point. They were hoping and praying it was a sick, twisted joke, but they had to keep watching at this point because it was like, what was this building to, number one, but also number two, if there were any clues that could be gathered, they had to gather them. So Squidward came back on screen, still sobbing, and this time blood was running out of his eyes, except that it looked really realistic, like hyper realistic. Like, once again, almost like the eyes that I had mentioned before in the crowd. This time it was like you could reach out and touch the blood that was running down his face. Suddenly that horrible laughing sound came back and another image flashed on screen. This time, a little girl. The room was silent, nobody spoke, as Squidward lowered his hands from his eyes, and they were the same human eyes that they had seen on the crowd before, still crying what looked like real blood. Loud, piercing screams came through the speakers as even more images came on the screen, and at this point, they had to stop the video. The lead editor decided he had to call in the creator of SpongeBob, who, when he showed up, was just so confused as to what he was hearing. But with him, they continued to watch the video. A final, super disturbing frame played that, again, I could not even give the lightest description of without it being horrifying, so scary, and also just too gruesome for my channel. Abruptly, it cut back to Squidward and the shot panned out. A deep man's voice said, "Do it." And Squidward reached for a shotgun. What followed was disturbingly realistic and unnerving to the core, and something that the author said stayed with them to this day. Several people ran out and were sick. Even more people just couldn't stay until the very end, but those who chose to wished that they hadn't. An entire investigation launched around this. When the tape itself was examined, they realized that it had been written over 24 seconds before they viewed it. That wasn't even like possible. The tape was in their hands, and yet it had been taped over 24 seconds before they watched. There were no physical clues left on the tapes. Everyone who had been involved had an alibi. Nobody did this. And there were no clues to be found in the real life images in the show either. Everybody was just left scratching their heads and asking themselves why and how and who made this. It seems to be, according to the author, unexplained paranormal phenomena to this day. Of course, this is just a creepypasta, but some loyal fans have created their own renditions of Squidward's tape online with none of the super disturbing material that I mentioned. This story is somewhat conflicting. I think that it's a really interesting story with a really great title that I've always wanted to talk about on my channel, and I've even, I think, like hinted to it before, talked about it in like compilation videos in the past, but one thing that I wish it hadn't is given birth to this trope of using dead children to scare readers in creepypasta. I get it, it's shocking, it's the ultimate evil, it's the ultimate disgusting thing, but I also think just like do something else. You know what I mean? Because every time that I see it, yes, it upsets me, yes, it freaks me out, it scares me, but not in the good way, not in the way that I feel like we like to be scared, we like to be unnerved. Instead, it just makes me feel really gross. I think there were so many other ways to freak out hardcore SpongeBob fans that weren't that cheap and crappy, but regardless, it's still disturbing to the core, and I hope I did a great job today explaining it to all of you. It is hands down a piece of creepypasta history that will forever go down in the books as the birth of these lost episode creepypasta horror stories. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you guys very much, and I will see you in my next video.